Shalom Aleichem everyone. I wanted to share with you a short idea when it comes to Parshat Vaetchana. We know in this week's Parsha we go ahead and read for the second time the Aseres HaDibros. And if you go ahead and analyze carefully, there are some very fundamental differences between the first Aseres HaDibros in Parshas Yisro and the Aseres HaDibros we will read in this week's Parsha and Parshas Vaetchana. I want to focus on the most radical of those differences, and that is, of course, in the fourth Dibra, in the Dibra of Shabbos. Let's go through three primary differences that you find. The first is the most obvious, most famous, made famous by the Lechadodi that we recite every single Friday night. In Parshas Yisro, we're told, Zochar es Yom HaShabbos l'Kadsho. In Parshas Vaetchana, it's Shamar es Yom HaShabbos l'Kadsho. Now, sure, our Masorah is Zochar v'Shamar b'Dibur Echa, but still, why in Parshas Yisro is it written Zochar, in Parshas Vaetchana is it written Shamar? The second difference that you find is, what's the reason that we go ahead and are commanded to keep Shabbos? In Parshas Yisro, we're told that the reason for Shabbos is Zecher L'Ma'aseh Bereshis. Remember that Hashem created the world in 6 days, rest on the seventh. We have a mitzvah command of V'halachta b'drachav v'metashi odei. We mimic Hashem. We work for 6 days and rest on the seventh as well. Zecher L'Ma'aseh Bereshis. Parshas Vaetchana is very different. In Parshas Vaetchana, the reason we're told for Shabbos, for the command of Shabbos, is V'zacharta, remember, Ki Eved Hayisa Be'eretz Mitzrayim. You were Avodah Mitzrayim, you were slaves. I redeemed you from that slavery, therefore keep Shabbos. Somehow, Shabbos is a Zecher Li'etzias Mitzrayim. That's difference number two. Difference number three is, who is the Makadesh of Shabbos? Who endows Shabbos with this Kedusha? In Parshas Yisro, you look at the end of the Dibra, and we're told, Al Kain Beirach Hashem Es Yom HaShabbos Vayekadsheu. Hashem blessed Shabbos and endowed it with Kedusha. What do you find in this week's Parsha? Al Kain Tzivcha Hashem Elokecha La'asos Es Yom HaShabbos. Hashem commanded us to make the Shabbos. Who's the Makadesh? We have to go ahead and make the Shabbos. Three fundamental differences. Just to review, Zochar v'Shamor. What's the reason for Shabbos? Zeich L'Ma'aseh Bereshis, or Zeich L'Tzias Mitzrayim. And thirdly, who is the Makadesh of Shabbos? Is the Makadesh Al Kain Beirach Hashem Es Yom HaShabbos, or is the Makadesh Klal Yisrael, that we're commanded La'asos Es Yom HaShabbos? What exactly is the idea? So I would like to suggest that when it comes to Parshas Yisro, there the command is, again, go back to the reason for Shabbos. Hashem created the world in 6 days, rest on the seventh. We have to recognize, cognize, feel weekly that Hashem is the Borei Olam. And as the Borei Olam, Shabbos is that testimony, that edus, that Hashem bara es ha'olam, and we have to cognize that on a weekly basis. You take a look at the third difference that we said. The end of the Dibra, we're told Hashem is the Makadesh. Al Kain Beirach Hashem Es Yom HaShabbos Vayekadsheu. How was he Makadesh? He worked for 6 days, Kiviyachol, rested on the seventh, that endowed the seventh day with Kedusha. Kidsha v'kaima, the Gemara in Beitza says, no matter what Klal Yisrael does, if they're not Makadesh Shabbos, doesn't make a difference. The seventh day is endowed with holiness. What's our role there? Our role there is Zochar es Yom HaShabbos l'Kadsho. Remember, cognize, an intellectual recognition that Hashem is the Borei Olam. That is the Shabbos of Parshas Yisro. What about this week's Parsha? Zecher Li'etzias Mitzrayim. In what sense is Shabbos connected to Yetzias Mitzrayim? Not very, very clear. My Rebbe Rav Sachs always likes to cite the Tosas Maseches Psachim Daf Kufid Zayin, where Tosas points cute. He cites a Mechilta that says it's an Atbash gematria that ties Mitzrayim to Shabbos. How so? We're told in Mitzrayim we did Avodas Parach, back-breaking labor. You take the gematria of Parach, but not the regular gematria, rather the Atbash gematria, where Aleph is worth 400 and Taf is worth 1, and Pei therefore equals Vav. The Reish of Parach is Gimel, is 3. The Chaf is Lamed, a total of Vav Gimel Lamed, 39. What kind of work did we do in Mitzrayim? Avodas Lametes, backbreaking Lametes Malachos. We were redeemed by Hashem, and therefore we no longer had that Avodas Parach, those Lametes Malachos. We commemorate the redemption by refraining 1 day a week from Lametes Malachot. That's a nice mechilta, but I want to suggest something a little bit deeper. Perhaps another idea is, what's unique, what's so special, so central to our faith in Mitzrayim, of Yetzias Mitzrayim? That's when we became one nation under God. That's when we became the Am HaNivchar, the Am Segula, not just a family of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we became an Am Segul that was chosen by the Ribono Shel Olam. There's one mitzvah that we have that perhaps more than any other mitzvah preserves and testifies as to that unique relationship that the Am has with Hashem. Ki osi beini uvein b'nei Yisrael. Shabbos is that os, that sign, that connection between Klal Yisrael and the Ribono Shel Olam. In fact, no coincidence whatsoever that the halacha is goy sheshavas. If a goy keeps Shabbos, he's chayav misa. He's not allowed to keep Shabbos. When the convert wants to get used to mitzvahs, and we make him not keep Shabbos, he has to break Shabbos in some fashion. We have the notion, if you want to know if someone's religious, you want to know if he's part of our faith, the question we always ask is, he Shomer Shabbos? Is something central to a Yid in his relation with Hashem that it flows through the mitzvah of Shabbos? Even the Goyim have seen the value of a day of rest, but Hashem orchestrated at such that when it comes to the Christians, they commemorate their day of rest on Sunday. The Muslims on Friday. Shabbos is that unique os, Beinu Vein B'nei Yisrael, that again was established for us at Mitzrayim. That's when we became that Am HaNivchar. If that's the case, perhaps a mere intellectual understanding, Zachar, is insufficient. For Klal Yisrael to have that bond, that continuing bond, that continuing os, it's not enough just to passively recognize Hashem as the Borei Olam. It requires more. It requires V'shamru B'nei Yisrael Es HaShabbos, to preserve, to keep, to grasp onto, to make a fundamental part of who we are. And that's what Shabbos does. In light of that, you understand as well the final difference. Who is the Mekadesh of Shabbos? The Shabbos of Yisro, Hashem is Borei Olam, so it's Kidsha V'kaima, the Gemara Beitza says. It's automatically Kadosh. Klal Yisrael doesn't have to do anything. It's Al Kein Berach Hashem. Hashem, by resting on the seventh day, endowed the seventh day with inherent Kedusha. When it comes to Parshat Vaetchana, which is about our relationship with Hashem as the Am HaNivchar, so here Hashem says, no, it's not up to me, it's up to you. Al Kain Tzivcha Hashem Elokecha La'asos Es Yom HaShabbos. It requires V'shamru, an act of preservation, an act of doing something more, holding on to it. This is what the Israeli poet writes, Yoter Shabbos Shomer Es Yisrael Mi Yisrael Shomer Es HaShabbos. The Shabbos keeps the Jew even more than the Jew keeps Shabbos. By the Jew keeping Shabbos, the Shabbos in turn keeps the Jew, requires a Maisa B'yadayim, requires a Kedusha that is endowed by Klal Yisrael. That's the Al Kain Tzivcha Hashem Elokecha La'asos Es Yom HaShabbos. In light of this idea, we can perhaps explain a very striking Gemara in the 7th parak of Maseches Shabbos. The Gemara tells us what's the din if you have a person who is lost in the desert. He's lost and he's totally lost track of time. He has no idea what day of the week it is. What day does he keep as Shabbos? The Gemara has 2 days. The first day it tells us what he should do is he should keep 6 days of Chol, and then the 7th day, count 6 days, the 7th day is the one he'll keep as his Shabbos. That's the day he'll make Kiddush and so forth. The other day it says, no, you can keep the first day right now. The first day is your Shabbos, and then 6 days, you'll count 6 days of Chol. The Gemara asks, B'mai kamiflgi, what exactly are they arguing about? And the Gemara says, the first man, the Amar, says 6 days of Chol, then Shabbos, he holds Kibriyasa Shel Olam. Just like Hashem created the world, 6 days rest on the 7th, when you're lost in the desert, it's exactly what you should do as well. What does the other Mandamar say? The first day of Shabbos, a striking comment. It says, Ka'adam Harishon. When Adam Harishon, when was he created? He was created the end of Friday, and therefore his first day in the world was Shabbos. And I would suggest to you perhaps what's the deeper idea in this Gemara. The Gemara is telling us there's 2 aspects to Shabbos. There's the Shabbos of Parshas Yisro, and that Kibriyasa Shel Olam, where we're more passive. All we need is a intellectual cognition of Hashem as Borei Olam. Hashem is the Mekadesh of Shabbos, Zecher L'Maaseh Bereishis. But then there's the other Shabbos, the other pan of Shabbos, the other angle of Shabbos. That's Parshat Vaetchana. And there we're told, no, a mere intellectual cognition is insufficient. We are the Mekadesh. we have to endow it. It's the human element that when we go ahead and experience a Shabbos, it's not sufficient just to go through the motions. We endow that seventh day with an added level of Kedusha, and that's in that way, Shabbos, if you will, is Zecher Li'etzias Mitzrayim, forges that relationship, that unique os, Beini Uvein B'nei Yisrael. For example, a Jew that breaks that bond, a Mumar L'Shabbos, is called a Mumar L'Chol HaTorah Kula. If he rebels against Shabbos, it's as if he shirked everything because he's severing that unique os, Beini Uvein B'nei Yisrael, and that is up to us. This is an idea in general. We find in general that when it comes to our Yadus, our Avodas Hashem, a person can go through the motions and do what he's supposed to do, not do what he's not supposed to do, and he looks, everything seems to be okay. But it seems from this idea that when a person invests himself, becomes the Mekadesh, does not just sit back, but adds a level of Kedusha to everything he does. So that's this added element which elevates Shabbos, for example, to a whole new plane. When a person goes ahead and he makes Kiddush, understanding that he's adding another level of Kedusha to this seventh day of the week, and he goes through his davening and his learning on Shabbos and so forth, endows it with another level. And this is really a paradigm that we should go ahead and apply in every aspect of our lives, is to go ahead, as we go ahead and develop ourselves as Ovdei Hashem, is to go ahead and be Makadesh everything that we do, invest ourselves properly so we can elevate everything that we do. I was very inspired, as there's a lot of fervor and fever about the Siyum Hashas. So you see people celebrating whether their own accomplishments or the accomplishments of others, but a person who makes that day in, day out commitment, whether it's in doing a daf yomi or any other kind of limud, or chesed, or tzedakah, but becomes invested in a mitzvah. In any mitzvah, whatever that mitzvah might be, becomes invested in the mitzvah, so then the level of Kedusha that can be attained is on a totally different level. And I would encourage everyone to find their mitzvah, to find their limud Torah, whether it's today, literally starting daf yomi, Friday, Erev Shabbos, and starting that new cycle, finishing brachos by Chol HaMoed Sukkos, or other areas of learning, of chesed, of tzedakah, to go ahead and build myself, invest, tefillah, whatever it might be, and thereby endow ourselves with that upper level of Kedusha. That's the unique message over here of the second Aseres HaDibros, is Al Kain, Tzivcha Hashem Elokecha La'asos Es Yom HaShabbos. We make the Shabbos. We endow it with its new status, and that elevates us in turn.